Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. My name is Alpa Sharma and this is our weekly editorial roundup. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible to everyone. Good evening everybody. Good evening. Can you hear and see me clearly everybody? Good to see you after a week. This is the editorial roundup where we every week meet and we discuss articles from the Hindu, Aeon, Guardian, E-magazine, multiple articles. And today I've got two articles. I'll give you a choice. I'll ask you to read them thoroughly. I'll ask you questions from them. I'll give you vocabulary from them. So that's what we're going to do. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible to everybody. So before I start off with the session, let me tell you exactly what do we do in this class every week. So I usually bring two articles from various editorials or magazines or journals. I bring two articles. The sources are basically from where CAT would pick up a reading comprehension or any other MBA entrance examination for that matter of fact. So I bring two articles. We take out vocabulary from these two articles. We try to memorize that. We discuss the tone of the author in the end and that's a homework that I give you because you have to reply to me under my video in the comment section about the tone of the author of the articles that I give you today. We will summarize the articles in a gist so that we understand the main idea, the argument given by the author. We'll try to draw inferences, if any, from the lines. And of course, since these articles are full of inferences, we'll try to draw a lot of them through the articles that we are given. And we will try to do some revision if time permits. So that's the agenda of the class. Now what I bought today, I bought two articles today. One article is from the Aeon and the second article is from the Guardian. Both the articles have a lot of reading between the lines. And while I help you reading these articles, our agenda is that we are able to understand what are the lines we need to focus on while we're reading it. How do we draw a mind map so that we are able to retain the information while we answer the questions? We're able to construe the entire main idea. We're able to get the vocabulary because these are high frequency words on which questions can come or that can hamper your understanding of that reading comprehension as well. And how do we learn to infer or read between the lines? So while I read it with you, make sure you understand, okay, ma'am has paid attention to this specific line. इस line पे मैम ने ध्यान दिया तो मुझे इस तरह की lines को ढूंढना है जब मैं पढ़ता हूँ. मैम ने इस तरीके से flow बनाया. This is the chart that she's made in the mind. I have to follow that kind of a chart while I'm practicing things on my own. So that's the idea. That's what we're going to be doing in the class every week that I see you. So if you guys are online, could you please send me a hi very quickly so that I know you guys are listening to me? Could you please send me a hi very quickly? I know how many, so that I know how many of you are available with me tonight. Can you send me a hi? Very quickly so that I proceed with the articles. Also, if you could quickly tell me which article do you want to start with? The Aeon one or the Guardian one? Of course, the Aeon one is supposed to be a longer one because Aeon doesn't give you shorter ones. So it's a very long article. I'm going to make it shorter. I have made it shorter, yet it becomes a very long one. Hi Mridula, hi Aditya. Good to see you here. So at least I know you two are here. I can see more people live, but I don't know if they're listening to me or not. So, hi Tejasvi, good to see you. Good to see you. Guardian, you want to start with the Guardian one? Alright, so let's do that. Okay. So, sounds like a very easy article while I show it to you, but has a lot of inference in it. कहीं भी कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आता है जो मैं explanation दे रही हूँ या जो मैं पूछ रही हूँ. Make sure you come up with the question then and there. Okay, make sure you don't miss out on that. So let's start with the vocabulary first before I show you the article. The first word of the class is hurtle. Hurtle is something that moves in a lot of speed so that it moves out of control. इतनी speed में जा रहा है कि वो control के बाहर हो जाती है. Uncontrolled manner में speed में. Bike को अगर 150 पे चलाओगे, it would hurtle. It will go beyond your, unless and until it's a sports bike, it would go beyond your control. So the runaway car hurtled towards them. It moved in so much speed that it was out of control. That's hurtling. Next word is forbidden. Something that's restricted or prohibited is forbidden, not allowed. Prohibition of people under the age of 18 entering pubs. It isn't allowed legally. So you're restricted, you're not allowed. It's prohibited is called forbidden. The list of forbidden books. Can you guys name a book that's prohibited or forbidden in our country? Hi, Rich Banker. Okay. Good evening, Pooja. Can you tell me a book that's prohibited anywhere in the whole world? Can you name a book that was prohibited? जिस पे बैन लगा दिया था. सुना है, पढ़ा है ऐसे किसी बुक के बारे में? Any book that was prohibited anywhere in the whole world? No? The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. Fatwa tha unke against for this book. And do you know the very, very popular book, The Animal Farm? Can you guess which country would have prohibited the Animal Farm if you've read the book? Yes, Aditya, Satanic Verses, that's the holy book. Not holy, but it talks about religion, and that's exactly why it was prohibited. Good guess. Animal Farm. You can guess which country prohibited it. You can guess which country was it targeting. The satire was on which country. One country that's in news for so many days. So Animal Farm was prohibited for a lot of time in that specific country. So many prohibited books. Truism. Now this word is a very important one because you see a lot of reading comprehensions, a lot of articles talking about this philosophy. So truism is that philosophy that I don't have to state the obvious. It's evident. It's visible. I don't have to state the obvious. That theory, that philosophy is truism. जो दिख रहा है, evident है, बताने की जरूरत नहीं है कि अगर बॉल को रोल करोगे तो थोड़ी देर बाद उसका मूवमेंट स्टॉप हो जाएगा because of friction. I don't have to state, it's obvious. It's obvious if you jump from the 4th floor, unless and until you have a mechanism, you would not fly, you would fall down because gravity would pull you. That's truism. So stating something that doesn't. Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes, you're right. Of course, yes, Aditya. Of course it is. For beginners who don't read books, it's a brilliant one. You can start off with that. Even if you read books, it's a brilliant one. Because, you know, when you look at Animal Farm, you would think, oh, it's a silly book that talks about animals. No, it isn't a silly book. It doesn't talk only about animals. It talks about a lot of other hidden things. And that will give you an insight of making a parallel story, an analogy. I absolutely would recommend you guys reading Animal Farm. Alright, so the next word is plausible. Plausible is okay, something that's probably true. I can see that it might happen. So a plausible explanation, a probable explanation. Something that's probable is plausible. And the last word for the slide is imprecise. Now let's break the word. According to etymology, precise, apt, perfect, accurate. Imprecise, like imperfect, imprecise is the opposite of it. So that's not accurate, not detailed, not exact, is imprecise. The witness could only give a vague and imprecise description. So a description that's not clear, that's unclear, that's vague, that's not accurate is imprecise. Slide number 1, jaldi se screenshot le lo sab log. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide here. Slide number 2, inanimate. Okay, a lot of people keep telling me, ma'am, आप बहुत animated तरीके से पढ़ाते हो. Ma'am, your expressions are very animated. I would take that as a compliment because that's true. Animated is full of expressions, full of life. Inanimate, like incorrect. Opposite of animate, inanimate is no life, no sign of life. Lifelessness is inanimate, inanimate object, sign of no life. So he was completely inanimate and it was difficult to see if he was breathing. So he looked as if he was lifeless. That's inanimate. Next word is ingenious. Okay, that comes from the word genius. So ingenious is very smart, very clever. Now remember, here in is a negative connotation, but here it is not. Something or somebody who is very clever and very smart and very apt is ingenious. Ingenuous is different, remember that. Okay? Shubham, yes, I would, but for that I would need your help. So the help that I would need here is that I would want you to like the session, share the session and subscribe to the channel. The more I get, the more frequently you would be able to see me. I hope you get it. Yes? So ingenious here, in is not a negative connotation. So genius. Now remember, I was talking about ingenuous. That word comes from genuine. So somebody who is genuine, innocent, is ingenuous. Ingenious comes from genius. Somebody who's smart, very apt. So ingenious device, very good. It's a very effective device. That's ingenious one. Perpetual, going on and on, is perpetual. You see it endlessly happening. Perpetual cases of COVID in our country, you see that happening on and on. Perpetual money worries, their worries about money did not end, it went on and on. Something that continues is perpetual. And the last word is vindicated. So vindicated is when you make something justified, when you prove it right, is vindicated. More sober views are vindicated by the events. That is, these events, they support more sober views. They are supported. They are justified. So justification of something is vindicated. Do you have any questions about any word? If not, take a screenshot very quickly of the second slide before I move on to the third one. Yes, Pooja, you have to remember the words because these are high frequency words. High frequency words kaun se hote bache? Those words that you see very frequently in the newspapers, which will hamper your understanding of the reading comprehension. If you know these words, you would be able to skim through the comprehension easily. You would be able to answer direct vocabulary questions like NMAT has and other MB entrance examinations have. So these are the high frequency words. The examiner doesn't expect you to become a dictionary. Okay? Exactly, Aditya. Correct. And it of course has the same meaning because it's the same repeated one. Going on and on with the same move. That's perpetual. Okay? So you have to revise these words. Please take a screenshot and keep revising them throughout the week till the time you see me next time. Let's look at the... Oh, that's all. We had only 2 slides. Now let's start with all those people who joined me late. I had given you guys a choice. I have 2 articles today. One from Aeon, a long one, not very long. I've made it crisp and short, but still a long one. And the other is from The Guardian. Which one would you like to start with? Somebody had asked me to start with The Guardian one. Kishan, that's a tough question. I think I would ask you to speak to the counsellors or probably any faculty who teaches you here who... Oh, okay. Kishan, I don't think that's a very smart choice. If you ask me honestly, it depends on the options that you have. Okay. Let's start off with The Guardian one because none of you came up with a suggestion. So I'll take the first suggestion coming up from you. This is The Guardian one. Read the first page. Send me a done before I ask you a question here. Go through it and then I'll ask you a question. Here you go. Read it very carefully. Read between the lines. Send me a done when you're done. Pooja, could you increase the volume of your... do others feel the same? Is the volume low? Done reading this? Okay, now my first question, this article talks about slugs and snails, okay? But Are slugs and snails used as metaphors, or slugs and snails is exactly what the author wants to talk about? Is it used as a metaphor here, or is it exactly what the author wants to talk about? What do you think? They regularly appear on the list of very irritating garden pests. And will the passage talk about slugs and snails, or is it a metaphor here? What do you think? Is it used as an example to hint to something else? No answers? Okay, let me help you in for that. See, look at this. So the author says slugs and snails regularly appear on the list of the most irritating garden pests. Pests, gande kide, dirty insects, not beneficial. Pests have a negative connotation, okay? So people say slugs and snails are considered as pests. They are irritating. And they have actually climbed up the list of dirty pests as the topmost one. But the Royal Horticulture Society this month says we are going to remove them from the list of pests. We will not call them as pests. Rather, we would celebrate them. Now, why would they celebrate it? Possibly because they have some benefit. So, because you call them pests, people look at them negatively. Whereas, if you celebrate them, people might start looking at them positively. It is a metaphor, my children. It absolutely is a metaphor. It's an example of how a name, calling something a pest or removing it from a list, can change your outlook towards that thing. आप क्या नाम रखते हो किसी चीज का? वो नाम, that name will define how people look at that thing, right? So if you start celebrating it, possibly people would not find these irritating. The article is about what's in a name. A lot is in the name. Plenty, it turns out. Coincidentally, scientists also argued last week that, so देखो, apart from slugs and snails, उन्होंने एक और misnomer का example लिया, wildflowers का, where these were injurious and they had to be controlled, uprooted. But they said they should be allowed to live. They should be allowed to thrive. They should be allowed to grow. So probably they would remove the list of these wildflowers from the list of weed, because weed has to be uprooted. It has to be cleaned. But that's not the case here. They think it needs to thrive. Come to the next page. Let's see if this is exactly what the metaphor meant. Have we inferred it correctly? Read the page and send me a done. Metaphor क्या होता है रोहित? Metaphor होता है एक indirect hint करना किसी चीज पे. Directly नहीं बोलना, indirectly कोई और बात बताना. Indirectly hinting towards something else is a metaphor. So he is the lion of the class. It's a metaphor. So you are comparing him to the lion. Send me a done when you're done reading this. Done? Yep. So let's go on with it. So it says, reason of both the changes. The wildflowers, slug and snails, the wildflowers as weed and slug and snails as pests. You would change the name. But the reason for change of the heart means change in the opinion. So the reason for change of the heart, they are similar. Slug and snails are an important part of the garden's ecosystem. They help us. They eat dead leaves. They would be eaten by hedgehogs. So do you see the entire cycle of nature going on here? It's the life cycle that goes on. It's the food cycle that goes on. The presence of every single creature on this earth is for the benefit to something else. If you remove them completely, like slugs or snails probably, or the wildflower, the benefit it has, like these or like this, you would omit it. And because you just keep uprooting the weed, this pollinator, and that too, they are not very huge in quantity, they would stop. So it has its own benefits. This paragraph talks about the benefits of the presence of these slugs or snails or wildflowers. How we choose to view and name the word. This paragraph exactly supports the point of view we had seen in the first page. Do you link it now? Now what happens, bache? When you read the first page, if you read it only mechanically, you would not see a lot of things coming ahead. You would not be able to anticipate. And since most of our examinations are full of reading comprehensions and it's a test of speed, a test of time, you need to be anticipating a lot. Aage kya hoga? You need to know that. What would be the next paragraph talking about? We anticipated this in the first paragraph. If you read that mechanically, you would not have anticipated this. We knew already what would come ahead. So, how we choose to name something determines how people react to it. If I call snails pest, people would find it dirty and remove it. If I call something weed, people would find it unnecessary and remove it. But if you change the name, people would look at it positively. This may be in the service of human ideas of beauty or perfection, or more complicatedly about producing food. Now you have to tell me, how is it about beauty or perfection? How is this line related to the idea of pests and snails and slugs and wildflower and wheat? What is beauty and perfection here? What do you think is the author referring to? It gradually picks up the pace. Perfection is, I have a garden full of beautiful flowers I choose to plant, and then there comes up a wildflower which is a weed, wild growing one. I would want my garden to be perfect. I would uproot that. I would want my garden to be beautiful. I would just throw away the slugs and the snails. That's the idea of beauty and perfection, how people look at things. Okay? But the result is the same. Gardens are the oldest of metaphors. Now my another question to you. Read the part till here and answer why or how are gardens the oldest of metaphors? Read the part and answer that. Who would answer this? This is tricky. Padho, 2 baar padho, 3 baar padho. Answer karo question. Socho, why and how are gardens the oldest of metaphor? Garden metaphor kaise hai yahan? Any idea, anybody? No? मेटाफर तो मैंने समझाया था मेटाफर क्या होता है. चलो देखते हैं. Let's see how and why are gardens the oldest of metaphors. Adam is a gardener. It was stated by Rudyard Kipling in one of his books. Because this book extols all garden work. What is extolling? Extolling is extremely highly praising something. This book praises all the garden work. Garden work is good. So when you say Adam was a gardener, how would you look at Adam? with a lot of positivity because the book praises garden work. So when you say Adam was a gardener, you praise him. This is a metaphor here. Similarly, even if Adam's job was only netting strawberries or killing slugs on borders, you would call him a gardener, you would look at him positively. Similarly, let's take the example of another book where the author Bauman used the phrase a gardening state. What was the gardening state here? He used this phrase to define a government. What do we do in gardening? We remove the unnecessary things. We let the things grow that would benefit me. If my garden has a weed growing and a tomato plant growing, I would keep the tomato plant and uproot the weed because the tomato plant will benefit me. It would give me tomatoes. He called a country's government in a gardening state because the government finds optimum conditions for some and ejects those deemed less useful and too wild. The government would uproot the weed that grows wildly. People who are too wild are not useful. Do you see the thing that happened in Germany? Linking here. Yes, do you see? Killing all the unfit people, women, Jews, and only keeping them who support you. Do you see the genocide happening here? Yes, it's an indirect hint. So, the government's functioning is referred to as a garden state. This is how garden can be used as metaphors in books. Got that? That's how it's a metaphor. So, with such a framing, Bauman was wittingly undermining the idea that rational methods based on scientific knowledge would create optimal conditions. There is now an acceptance that nature is too complex. Now people know nature is very complex. And you can't control nature completely. Kitna control karoge? Can you kill all the mosquitoes in the world? No. Nature is too wild and too complex to be tamed. Taming means control on a wild thing. Our ecological future depends on diversity, and that requires a more relaxed approach. Rather than being obsessed with cleaning up, we need a relaxed approach and a rewilding movement into our private gardens. Now, read this line, this page, and send me a done when you're done. How is it oldest? Nahi samajh mein aaya. Aditya, I'll explain that again. Dekho, come here. He says gardens are the oldest of metaphors. Oldest because it has been used in many old books. Forever, they've been using gardens as a metaphor to explain or hint to something else. Take the example of this book and this book. They used gardens as metaphors, not directly hinting to the inefficiency of the government or Adam being a gardener. They used the word or Adam, looking at Adam with a positive side. They used garden to hint to something. So, garden has been used since many years and centuries and decades as a metaphor. Take the example of these books. Got that, Aditya? Yes? Changing the slide now. Read the page, everybody. Send me a done when you're done. Also, remember this, Aditya, and everybody else. Like I pay attention to this line, this is what you have to learn. We have a lot of time in our hands till the time we sit for CAT 2022. We have a lot of time in our hands. If you practice this way, trust me, right now it's time consuming, but it catches up. You would catch up the pace. You would not be struggling so much with all the inference and main idea and hidden idea questions. Okay? Now here, read the page and send me a done. Simple. After you are done, there is one very important question you have to answer. The question is, what is the conclusion drawn by the author here? Answer this question. I'll give you 2 minutes rather. Read this and answer this. Let's see if you can get it. Read the paragraph, answer this question in your own words. Could you find it out? Did you get this? The conclusion? In your own words. This is the last paragraph of the passage. What is the conclusion the author draws here? Aditya, Mridula, Rohit. Give it a try. Of course, you can make mistakes here. Do you want me to explain the conclusion? Do you know what a conclusion is? Should I explain it? Okay, let me do it for you. So, gastropods are basically words. This is a word that refers to slugs and snails. Gastropods remain mostly a mystery. We don't know if slugs or snails are beneficial for us or harmful, but we certainly know that only a fifth of the entire variety of these slugs and snails are harmful. Only a fifth. Others benefit us. And labeling all the slugs and snails as pests actually demeans the availability of the help they would give us. So we need to rename them. What's in the name? There's a lot of things. Yes? And then he quotes an author. He says, what would the world be once bereft of wet and wilderness? He says, दुनिया में wet और wilderness ही नहीं रहेगा तो दुनिया में क्या रहेगा फिर? What will be left in the world if there's no wet and wilderness? Let the wilderness grow. Long live the weed and wilderness. Let it never be destroyed. And then comes the catch here. The author uses the word but. When the author uses the word but, remember, mind my words, note it down wherever you're reading or writing notes. Whenever there's a contradiction in the passage, you have to be very carefully reading that. The contradiction here. You know, when I say, dude, you study a lot, but I want to know your marks. What line am I focusing on? You reading a lot or your marks? My focus is on the marks, the second half. When there's a contradiction, remember the first half is actually a pacifying statement for you. It's not very relevant. What's relevant is the second half. So, अभी तक जो लिखा था वो शायद आपको pacify करने के लिए लिखा था. Important शायद इसके बाद वाला part, and that's exactly the conclusion that the author says. He says, but there should be enough humility to recognize that choices will still be made about which flowers should grow, which slugs can let loose. What does he say here? He says, but you, if you belong to the RHS society or if you belong to anybody who promotes slugs and snails, remember, people will still have their opinions. People will still uproot the weed, throw away the slugs and snails, and cut out the trees which they think is unnecessary. Wilderness is for some time likely to be organized lightly. They would not appreciate wilderness. At least for some time they would not. So as not to spring a nasty surprise, because they don't want any nasty surprise. They would keep doing all of this which you are trying to promote. The conclusion is, even if you promote this, for some time people will keep continuing what they think is unnecessary. The change cannot just come in a day the moment you change the name from pest to normal insects. That's the conclusion drawn here by the author. Got that, Tejas? Vaise, that was a very good try. I know usually people get this wrong. So remember, the contradiction and the second half of the contradiction becomes supremely important. Remember my example. I'll repeat that always. पढ़ाई तो तुम बहुत करते हो, what your marks are, that is what is important, that's what matters. All right, so that's the first passage. You, before I show you the next passage, have to do a homework. You have to comment under my video in the comment section. 1, tell me the tone of the author. 2, tell me if you like the video or not. You have to do these 2 things. Remember to do these 2. Tell me the tone of the author of this passage and tell me if you like the session or not. Now let's come to the Aeon article very quickly. It's a long one, but we're going to skim through it. I'll be asking you questions. Read the page and send me a done once you're done. What is the law of nature? Philosophical? No, easy. It gradually picks up the pace. Gradually difficult hoga. Dekhte hain, can we make a flowchart in our mind? Can we make a mind map here? Let's see. Read the page. What is the law of nature? I'm sure you've seen Star Trek. And I'm sure you can recall this scene from the movie as well. Can I infer from this paragraph that laws of physics are laws of nature? Yes or no? I'll repeat. Can I infer from this paragraph that laws of physics are laws of nature? Yes or no? Can I infer it? Is that what the author is referring to by stating the laws of physics? Yes? No? Guys, you need to answer to me. You answer to me, and that's how I know you able to get it. Okay? Don't be a mere spectator. Yes, yes, Amatya, absolutely correct. Yes, laws of nature is exactly what laws of physics is. Physics says if you drop down from a building, you're going to be falling down and not flying up unless and until you have a mechanism, because that's gravity, it would pull you down. That is the law of nature. You can't fly because you don't have wings. Yes, that's the law of nature because that's the law of physics. So the author uses the laws of physics here to represent the laws of nature. And there's a very beautiful article which continues. If you remember, one of the previous year CAT papers had given us a passage where, I don't exactly remember the year, where the passage talked about how you are a slave to nature and nature will force you to do things it wants you to do. It will force you to drink a glass of water when you're thirsty because it will make you thirsty, and eat food so that you can survive. The nature will force you to do that, to breathe, eat, drink and follow all the rules of physics. So, you being a slave to nature is a natural slavery, but you being a slave to another man is unnatural slavery. Unnatural slavery because you are a slave to a man, you are working for him, like slaves working in a plantation. You remember South Africans? Yes? So, slaves working in plantation, it was unnatural slavery. Nature would force you to do it. Man would also force you to do it. But can you violate the slavery to a man? Yes, you can. Can you violate the slavery to nature? No, my children, you cannot. Nature will force you to do it. Otherwise, you'll see the repercussions. You can't omit it. This exactly links to one of the previous year CAT passages. That's why this is here. Read the page. It says, we understand his point. He cannot break the law of nature. He cannot break the law of physics. Nothing can. Nobody can break the law of nature. The natural laws limit what can happen. If you want to start, all the engineers here, you would understand my point. If you want to start from zero and immediately want to cross the speed of light. Can you do that? No. Physics would not allow you to do that. Nature would not allow you to do that. Run faster than the speed of light when you start from zero. You can't do that. Right? So, nature will put a limit to what you can do. They are stronger than the laws of any country because the country's laws can be violated. The laws of nature cannot be violated. It cannot be violated. आप नहीं इसको cancel कर सकते हो. If it is a law of nature that, for example, no object can be, the example इसको skip करो. Yes, let's read this example. So, there are many things that never actually happen, but could have happened in that their occurrence would violate no law of nature. What does he say? He says, बहुत सारी चीजें, I'll explain that in Hindi and English both. बहुत सारी चीजें हो सकती हैं, लेकिन कभी होती नहीं है. A lot of things can happen in this world, but we don't see them happening. Is that a violation of nature and its laws? No. Nature is, it permits you to do things, but you would rather never do that. For example, in the history of universe, perhaps there never was or will never be a gold cube larger than 1 mile on each side. We've never seen that. Possibly we'll never see a gold cube larger than 1 mile. But is it impossible? No, it's permissible by nature. Just that we don't see that happening. It just turns out it never exists. It's like a sequence of moves that is permitted by the rules of chess. But Aditya, you would link to it. We see a lot of rules are permitted in chess. But in the history, nobody has ever played that move because it's permitted but never possible. Yes, it's permitted to make 1 mile long gold cube, but not possible actually. Permitted and possible are two different things. So, two examples to explain this idea. Now, a lot of people who struggle with philosophical passages, specifically Aeon ones, let me give you an insight. There will be a lot of ideas in the passage, okay? And the author would know that you are unable to get them. The author will always back it up with a lot of examples. You don't understand the theory, look at the examples. I'm sure the example will be able to explain it to you. You don't understand the line where he says that universe, that there are many things that can never actually happen or could have happened and their occurrence would violate the nature, law of nature. You don't understand that, it's okay. Read the example of gold cube. Read the example of the chess. You would understand that. So if you're unable to get the main idea, the theme, the theory, the philosophy that's explained by the author, understand the examples. It would always be clear to you. Okay? So, an object must always obey the laws of nature. But all these truisms, it's obvious I have to eat and drink. It's obvious you can't run beyond the speed of light. These are truisms. Beyond all these truisms about the laws of nature sound plausible and familiar, they are also imprecise and metaphorical. How are they a metaphor? Again, kitna metaphor aa gaya aaj dekho. That means you need to know metaphor is a very important word while we are doing passages. These can be metaphorical. The natural laws obviously do not govern the universe in the way that the rules of chess govern the game of a chess. It governs. Chess aise hi khela jata hai. This is how you have to play chess. These rules are permitted. But natural laws, they do not govern the universe in the same manner. Chess players know the rules, so they deliberately follow the rules. But do the chess objects that are there on the chessboard, do they follow rules or do you follow rules? Who governs the game? The chess rules. And who does the rule govern? Not the objects, not the items. You, my child, you who are the player. But it's the other way around with the nature. Nature governs you. Who are the players in this game? So the governing is different when you look at the game of chess, whereas you look at the laws of nature. The governing is different here. Yes? Understand the difference between the governing that's between the inverted comma? Got that, everyone? आ रहा है कुछ समझ में? Are you able to get it? Give me a thumbs up very quickly so that I know you're attending, you're attentive, you're able to grasp the idea. Send me a thumbs up very quickly, everybody. I don't know if you're able to get it or not. I'll proceed once I receive your thumbs up. Yes. I have only one yes. Okay, let me move on. So, here comes the last one with a question that I have. Okay. There are many things that we would describe appropriately as impossible. Okay, let me give you another example here. We say it's impossible. Does that mean nature does not allow you to do it? Or does that mean your capacity does not allow you to do it? Impossible is your capacity does not allow you to do it. You say, ma'am, can you teach in Kannada? Or maybe Telugu? I would say, no, it's impossible. That doesn't mean that nature would not allow me to do that. It's because I don't know these languages. That's why I can't teach in these languages. So the word impossible does not mean the nature would not allow it. It's because your capacity is limited. My capacity of teaching in Telugu or Kannada is limited. I can't do that. It's the capacity, exactly. So there are lots of things that we would describe appropriately as impossible, but that do not violate the law of nature. My car cannot accelerate from 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds. That's impossible for my car because my car is not a supercar. But nature allows you to accelerate from this to this in less than 5 seconds. Nature would permit you to do that. Yes? So impossible has a different connotation. Impossible means your capacity does not allow you to do that. Not that nature restricts you. Okay? Now, I could make only 3 options, A, B and C. I would want you to tell me which of the following could be true. It could be all, it could be none. Read all of them and tell me which of the following could be true according to the passage. Man-made laws can be violated. Nature forces one to obey its laws. Something that is impossible as natural law can never occur. Which of the following could be true? It could be all could be true, none could be true. Answer the question here. Yes, what's it? We've read the passage till now. What did you understand? Which of the following is true? Anybody? Mridula, Tejasvi, Rohit, Hina, Renu, Amatya. Man-made laws can be violated. Of course, it can be. I can violate a law of a country. I can obviously be put into the jail after that, but it can be violated. A is true. B says nature forces you to obey its laws. Yes, it does. Amatya, see, understand this. You can't run faster than the speed of light. It's natural law and you have to obey that. Yes. And the third one, something that is impossible as a natural law. That is, you can't run faster than the speed of light. It's impossible. As a natural law, it can never occur. Yes, it can never occur. If it's all of these, all of this is true. But something that is impossible because of your capacity, can it never occur? Of course it can. I can learn Kannada, I can learn Telugu, I can start teaching in these languages. Yes. So my capacity, if something is impossible because of that, it can occur, of course. But if it is impossible because of the natural law, it can never occur. Nature does not allow you to do that. The answer is all of these. All right. So, okay, now let me quickly show you the last paragraph because it's super long. Yes. So let's see this one. Laws of nature are important scientific discoveries. Their counterfactual resilience enables them to tell us about what would have happened under a wide range of hypothetical circumstances. Aisa hota to kya hota? Had it happened, what else would have happened? We have a lot of hypothetical conditions, circumstances. And these laws of nature would have told us, मैं fourth floor se कूद जाता तो क्या होता? Law of nature will tell you what would have happened had you fallen down from any other, not you, let me take it on me, had I fallen down from any of the floors of the building. Then necessity means that they impose limits to what is possible. Laws, repetition of the same idea. Do you see that? We've been discussing it throughout. Laws of nature can explain why something failed to happen by revealing that it cannot happen. It is impossible. Laws of nature will tell you it is impossible. Why did it not happen? Because it just cannot happen. Why did I not pass the examination? My capacity did not allow me to do that. But why did I not be able, was I not be able to run faster than the speed of light? That was because nature did not allow me to do that. We begin with several vague ideas that seem implicit in the scientific reasoning. That the laws of nature are important to discover, that they help us to explain why things happen. Yes, somebody saw an apple falling and he said, okay, now I know why it happens. A law of nature makes the apple fall down. That's gravity. And that they are impossible to break. No, you can't break it. If you don't have any mechanism, you're going to fall down. It will attract you. Now we can look back and see that we have made these vague ideas more precise and rigorous by explanations we've given to it. In doing so, we found that these ideas are not only vindicated, but also deeply interconnected. Somebody must have thought, Sab girte kyun hai? Why does everybody fall down? Newton said that. This is the reason. Right? So now we can see how hypothetical ideas can be given a reasoning. We now understand better what laws of nature are and why they are able to play the roles that science calls upon them to play. ऐसा लगता है science के laws है ये. No, they're the laws of nature. So you have to do two things. This editorial is not from the Hindu. This is from the Aeon, my children. It's from the Aeon. Now you have to do, not two, you have to do 5 things. You have to like the video right now. You have to share the video right now. You have to subscribe to the channel. But apart from that, 2 important things that you need to do. You need to comment under my video, the homework for today. Every comment, I'll personally check them. You have to comment the tone of the author for both the articles that we have done. Okay? For both the articles. If you've joined me late, watch the recorded session. Comment under my video the tone of the author and comment if you like the effort that I put in. I'll be glad. It would force me to take more classes very frequently. I would need that. Thank you so much, everyone. I shall see you next Wednesday. Very soon. Till then, take very good care of yourselves, everybody. And good night. Bye, everyone.